Phil Lindeman, Crystal Media News Director in the studio today, continuing our Humans of Summit Rescue profile series. And today I got Brandon Ciullo in with me. Brandon, good to have you.
Good to have you. Thank you, Phil. I appreciate you.
Yeah, and Brandon, people know you from somewhere else around town. Where do they know you from?
Summit Lost Pet Rescue is a nonprofit organization that me and my co-director, co-founder Melissa Davis started about 3 years ago. Became a nonprofit charity. So people know me from there too. And I also am on the Summit County Water Rescue team as a recovery diver for the last 7 years. That was actually my first introduction into the rescue world. It kind of went from water rescue, mountain rescue, lost pet rescue.
Now, before we get to lost pet, you got to tell me about the water rescue. That was your gateway drug into search and rescue.
I kind of got into rafting, kind of got into swiftwater, good stuff like that. Had a couple close calls with some friends. So I took a swiftwater rescue class. I had a friend on the team who kept reaching out to me and said, you're an asset, we need you. So eventually I said, fine, let's do it. And from there was a lateral move to becoming a recovery scuba diver. And I've been a recovery scuba diver for the water rescue team for the past 3-4 years. So I was on that team for a while. And then I just kind of took another lateral step and joined the Summit County Search and Rescue Group just to get a little more hands-on as far as like first aid and wilderness first responder and just medical assessments and just stuff like that, just get a different angle of it.
Scuba diving. Had you done that before, or was that something that you learned up here in the chilly waters of Summit County, Colorado? Really?
It was kind of like snowboarding. I moved here to do it. So no, I never scuba dove. I never really was into it, and that's why I was surface support and comms guy for a long time. And then we lost a few people, and they kind of said, hey, you've been on the team for a couple of years. We need you to become a diver. And I became a recovery diver in Dillon Reservoir.
Tell me about that, because I think that is a side of things that people, they know that this stuff happens. They know what goes on. They hear about it. Unfortunately, we have people who drowned or anything else like that. But I don't think people understand what actually goes into it. Like, what did you have to do to get certified to become a rescue diver?
Obviously, first I had to go to my PADI open water cert. I went down to Denver, got that. Then we kind of take all that and throw it out the window and start PSD, which is public safety diving. That is more high altitude diving, diving in the dark, dry suit, full face mask, versus recreational where you wear a wetsuit and a traditional regulator. We have a lot more difficulty getting recreation divers to transition over to us versus new divers because of the dry suit, because of the shears and the knives and the tether line and the comm line and the zero visibility. It is a complete different type of diving than diving in the ocean recreationally and stuff like that.
Yeah, because, I've been scuba diving like twice in my whole life. I got certified to go down to Cozumel, go do some reef diving. Beautiful ocean, wildlife, all that sort of stuff. Felt like being in National Geographic. What you're doing is not National Geographic.
It is very cold, very dark, sometimes a little morbid. As you know, we do recoveries of humans that have drowned. We did have 3 this year alone in Lake Dillon. We average maybe about 1 a year. So yeah, it's much different type of diving. It's definitely dark, cold. You don't really get to see where you're going. You kind of use your senses. What we like to say is that we see with our eyes. We see with our hands. And we kind of just close our eyes and put our hands out. Luckily, we got some nice high-tech tools that the Sheriff Office and Denver Water were able to provide for us as an underwater drone. We have an underwater drone that can go underwater 1,000 feet. And because we can only dive a certain amount of depth because of I'm not going to get into it, but theoretical versus actual depth. Being at this high elevation, this 10,000 feet, we're diving at a little bit different atmospheric pressure.
Yeah, because anybody who's been diving knows all about the dive tables,
Correct.
And all that whole thing with, flying in, flying out, even that sort of stuff. But it's the same thing up here at altitude.
It is, especially if we have one of our guys that drive in from Leadville or Fairplay over driving to them. We are going higher. So we keep a pretty close eye on altitude and where people are coming in from and where we're going to. Our team is very good at safety first, since we are recovery divers. Whatever it is we're going in for is usually already gone. which is sometimes it's a vehicle, wedding ring. We took a wedding ring out in Frisco Marina for an ex-Marine that was 70 years old, and then we found his ring for him. So, yeah, we just kind of give ourselves like a really short bottom time.
Very cool. Yeah, like I said, that's the sort of thing that it's one of those like rescue group, one of those jobs around Summit County that people know happens, but they're not sure exactly how it happens. So when you transferred over, or you started working with the rescue group, how long you been with them at this point?
With the mountain rescue?
Yeah, with the mountain rescue.
So
yeah,
I think I've been on the mountain rescue team for like 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
And then I've been on the dive team for 5 or 6.
Okay, gotcha. Doing the rescue group, what kind of missions do you tend to go out on? What kind of things are you usually available for? And then also, do you feel like, comfortable getting out on?
Just pretty much basic injuries on the mountain, broken legs, ankles. I've actually had the opportunity to rescue a couple of dogs that were injured on top of Quandary, and we went up there and got the dogs out. Like I said, my main background is from water, so when swiftwater season comes, I definitely take charge in that, to help out with the mission coordinators to do some trainings, and definitely show up to a lot more missions for swiftwater. Everybody's got their specialty. We have the avalanche squad, we have high angle rescuers and stuff like that. So I would say that I'm definitely more of a all mountain kind of guy. I don't have a lot of avalanche experience, so I know they use a lot more ski patrollers and a lot more people that have, which is fine. I mean, I totally get it. I use people, one person can't be an expert in the 6 or 7 different types of mountain rescues you have. So me, it's swiftwater for the mountain rescue, or just basic injuries and stuff like that.
Yeah, and when I was talking to some other members, they said that too, that, maybe one of the myths that they had when they first joined or before they joined was that I've got to be the ultra athlete that does it all, handles it all, knows how to go everywhere, and can do it for 24 hours at a time. But that's not the case. Like you said, you kind of got that water background.
Yeah.
And that comes in handy.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned, I got to step it back a little bit. You mentioned you had some close calls that got you into swiftwater stuff that made you think, I need to be better. You mind sharing any of those close calls?
Yeah, here in Summit County, we're a special breed of people that like to gamble with our lives and our bodies and take some serious chances. And we're adrenaline junkies. And just one quick story was I was on a river, and it was a really big river, small boat, and one of my friends got bucked out. Unfortunately, he did not really take my safety speech serious and made a bunch of amateur mistakes, and we almost lost him. And we were able to get to him and pump some water out of him, and it was close. So I said, let me take a swiftwater class, and I actually do like a little boogie board. I have a little boogie board that goes down the rivers. So when someone goes missing, the first thing they do is send me in on my boogie board, and then I start the search while ground teams mobilize, and then hopefully I can get them assessment by the time they're about to enter. I've had a couple of close calls on my boogie board, saving other people on the Blue River, and just people doing silly things. And luckily, I'm in the right place at the right time, and I was able to help them and give them a little stern talking to. But it's funny because I went back to my truck and I had a 12-pack of beer and an apology note, apologizing, saying that they were sorry that they had to put me in that situation because of their stupidity. It was really nice and humbling to see, knowing that they learned what they should not have done and made it out.
And you haven't had to rescue him again since then, I'm guessing.
Nope.
That's the best part, is that they didn't then get in another situation like that. Is there any video of you on that boogie board anywhere around this world?
Not video, just a couple of pictures here and there.
All right.
It's hard to get someone to be on the river to take a video because I only go in class 3, class 4s, big water, because flat water is kind of boring, and if it's low water, you're getting your knees and shins bashed up. So it's a high water kind of toy, and it's hard to get a camera when you're doing that.
Short season, I imagine, too.
It is. Yeah, we got it. It's basically just, the Blue River hasn't ran in a couple of years. So we've been going to the Arkansas and doing some stuff out there.
Now we got to transition to the other side of things that you do, lost pet rescue. Tell me how you transferred some of those skills that you learned from water and dive and then rescue group over to what you guys are doing for the nonprofit.
Yeah, so when Melissa and Davis and I started doing this about 7 years ago, we were very a preliminary team, didn't have a lot of scientific background. I did take a class. I am a trained pet detective. I took a 80-hour, 8-week class with a person that broke down the studies and the science behind lost dog behavior, which is one of the reasons why I think we're so successful. So as the team started to grow, and we went from 5 or 6, 7 people to 15 people to 30 people to 40, 50 to over 100, Melissa and I needed to know how to manage our resources efficiently, manage individual personalities, find people's qualities, and know how to utilize each person in the most efficient way. Because one person who's a good hiker may suck on Facebook, and somebody who just doesn't know anything about Facebook be a great hiker. But I need that person out there hiking, bringing in sightings or giving us information, and then getting it out on social media, because social media is one of our biggest tools. So I kind of took their structured format, and Melissa and I are mission coordinators, just like some of the mission coordinators you have. Just like on SAR, they have team leaders. We took 10 to 12 people and trained them in a certain way to become team leaders. And then we have the rest of our volunteers that do everything from marketing, social media, fundraising, events, signs, and stuff like that. And then Melissa and I oversee every mission, drop tasks down to our team leaders who will go and take our volunteers and go do things for us. Like today alone, we had a rollover car accident in Frisco last night around midnight, and there's a lost dog. And my team has been out there since 7 o'clock this morning, putting signs up and doing things that I would normally have to do, but I wasn't able to do. So instead of at 3 o'clock, me doing it, my team already went out there and got him up at 7:30 and started the process of trying to bring in sightings. So then we do like flagging. So if I'm going in a half a mile to a camera, I set up orange flagging around a tree and make a trail so that anybody can find that camera. They just follow the orange trail. I took that from search and rescue. Grid searches, structure, the probabilities. You always check like the high morbid morality areas first. You know what I mean? Like, there's a certain spots where if they're there for so being trapped. So if you lose a dog or a cat, the first thing we're going to do is check sheds, check places where they can get trapped because they can't get out. And I know that if they're there for more than 5 or 6, 7 days without food or water, that's not where I want to look on day 7 or 8. That's where I want to look at day 1 and 2. And then we start fanning out because, all right, we just checked the places where if they were there, they only had 2 or 3 days to survive. And little things like that.
Yeah. Things that, when people go out to search for a dog, obviously they think I'm going to slap a sign up and hope that somebody sees him and then go out and call in the woods. There's more science than that. Yeah.
In a perfect world, that happens maybe once in a while. And that happens, but, when we're working with a skittish dog that just got ejected from a rollover vehicle is not going to be your typical dog. So, this last dog we got a couple weeks ago, Zuma in Dillon Valley. That was the perfect example of detective work. Melissa out, interviewing people, finding out, like, where did you see him? Where exactly was it? What time was it? Following up on sightings, following up and interviewing. And we actually moved our trapping camera 3 times. So finally we put it somewhere on a Friday because we took an educated guess saying this is where I think she's sleeping. Because we're getting sightings over here, there's water source, there's a heat source, I think she's sleeping, and we got her, and we went aggressive with 3 cameras because there was a snowstorm coming in, and we went aggressive with 3 cameras and got her on all 3 cameras that night. She walked into the trap that morning, and that night we armed it and trapped her. So there is a science behind it.
And I remember hearing about that dog. That dog was lost for a long time.
26 days.
26 days. How does that compare to some of the other rescues? Is that on the longer end of?
That is on the longer end. I think the longest one we've ever worked, we consulted with, was 42. On a side note, we're about to make this public, but I'll make it public now. 2 dogs that were missing in Keystone last year. One of them was just found in Fort Collins about a month ago. So 400 and something days. Obviously, the dog was taken from Keystone, brought down to Denver, kept, and then escaped from their captors in Denver. And then the next person who found him scanned him and actually contacted the real owner. So, and the one with this one was a little bit different is because most of the time, these long missions, we have feeding stations, and we're controlling their food, which is ultimately how we get them in the trap. We didn't feed her, so we have no idea what she was eating for 26 days. So she was pretty emaciated and nice and skin and bones, but she was surviving on her own out there for sure.
What kind of dog was she?
Shiba Inu.
Shiba Inu.
Which
okay.
I heard is like the MMA fighter for dogs. Like some of the most wild dogs, they're small, but they're like a husky. They're just born to live out there. And, we got sightings, and the owner was in 5 feet of her, and she just got up and walked away. She's like, it's almost like she wanted to be out there.
Yeah, like you said, she might have been emaciated, but that's, she wasn't sitting in a house anymore. She was just wandering the woods, doing what she does best, I guess.
Yeah, just being out in her element.
All right. That Keystone situation.
Yeah.
That dog's been returned now.
Yeah, man. It was really cool because people know how much hard work we put in, how much dedication, how much emotion we put in. And when Chase was found, the people actually reached out and told us. And they're like, hey, I just want to let you know that we found Chase. I know how much time you guys put in. We thank you again for all the efforts you did. You guys were right because we said, we think someone picked him up. It's not a high predatorial area, and that's not a high probability. It's actually a very, very, very low percentage. And what we call it rescue theft, where the people think they're rescuing their dog, but they're actually stealing someone's dog. We had a lady last year that took a 16-year-old husky from Dillon Valley and gave it to her dad in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And then we found out about it months later, and then we got the dog back. She's like, oh, I didn't want to bring it to the shelter. People don't realize our shelter is one of the best shelters in the entire country. They don't put dogs down. They don't put senior dogs down. This lady was afraid that they were going to bring it to the shelter and they were just going to put it down. So that's why she took it. So no, we got the reunion video of Chase and Alex, which was really cute, but Angel's still out there, and hopefully we could find Angel.
Angel is still missing, and if I remember right, when I talked to you guys a couple weeks ago, your success rate is, with the exception of these 2 dogs, 100%, right?
Correct.
All right.
To date, since January 1st, 2022, we have found every dog that went missing that we were called for, except for these 3 dogs right now. We have 2 dogs missing in the Silverthorne area, Smith Ranch, Polar Court area, so keep your eyes out. One is, just go online, one's a pity mix, and then we have Annie, who is another pity mix, black and white, that is missing in Frisco.
And she's from the rollover last night, yeah?
Correct, yeah. There was a rollover around 8:30 last night, which would be November 9th. And the owner got out of the hospital and messaged me about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, and told her that we will be with you first thing in the morning. And, yeah, we'll find them.
And the search is still continuing? Yeah, all right.
We got people out there right now.
Great.
Melissa's out there right now doing a sensation and setting up that stuff.
I might use that one today on the news. I know that this interview with us, it ain't going to run until, tomorrow. But,
okay.
Hey, that stuff's happening right now because, like you said, social media makes a big difference. Just how much of a difference does it really make to have a community looking out for these animals? Does it make a difference?
I mean, I think you did the Rosie story.
Yeah, River? Rosie wandered off into Blue River and found, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when I was explaining to Mary, who was the owner of Rosie, that 99% of the time we get the sighting that leaps to capture from a Good Samaritan. That's why Melissa and I are so keen on, first thing we do, social media campaign, signs and flyers. Signs and flyers. Get people out there knowing. Because the owner wants to go look, and I get that, but in 1 hour, you spent 1 hour with your 2 eyeballs searching the area. Meanwhile, I spent an hour, and between my social media campaign and my signs, I have 500 people that know about this lost dog now. And then as the sightings come in, we start creating a travel pattern. And it's actually funny because I just met a girl the other day. She's like, I was getting so worried about Zuma. I didn't think you guys were going to find her. And I was like, well, to be honest with you, once sightings come in and once the trap goes out and once we're really honing in on her, we stop making things public because we know where she is. We know what she's doing. And we kind of take a step back and become a little more intimate in our rescue and really study her behavior and set a trap out, and we kind of become a little more quiet. But that initial step, we need every single person in the county be like, hey, I saw her here at 2 o'clock. I saw her here at 3 o'clock. I saw her here at 4 o'clock. Well, where was she going? West, west, west. Cool. Guess where I'm going to go 2 miles further because now I know she's traveling west, or if she's circling back.
And all this good work, all the, like you said, the stuff that you learned from the rescue group, how to, organize a big organization like this, get volunteers and mission commanders, all those people together. Well, it all led to congratulations in order for Best of Summit, right? Nonprofit this year.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we won first place for the 3rd year in a row.
All right.
So yeah, it's been real good. And Melissa and I, hat trick. And Melissa and I definitely, with our volunteers, dedicated volunteers, and animal control and shelter, and just I call them single serve heroes that, hey, that's my neighborhood. I'll keep an eye out. I'm going to walk my dog. And they just worked that one mission. But if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't even known. And just the amount of love that we all give into the community, we feel it giving it right back to us, for sure.
It's a cool organization. Have you had anybody reach out to you and say, we want to bring this to our own town, or we want to bring this to our own county?
We kind of did. Well, one of the things, we try not to get involved in too much because we've already run ourselves thin, because people do want us to go here and go there. And unfortunately, we give them a little bit of advice. I can't go to Gunnison. I can't go to Durango. So what Melissa and I did, which is, I think was one of the biggest moves we made, was we're really good at car accidents. So people call me from car accidents all up and down I-70 all the time. Long story short, Melissa and I reached out to all these lost pet Facebook groups. I messaged the admin and said, hey, listen, I was wondering if we could work together. I get to call in for Eagle. I'll give it to you, but I can give you guys any advice, traps, cameras, anything you guys need. So I connected Black Hawk, Evergreen, all the way to Moab. And now people, Debbie Weeker and Kate and Evelyn and Mark Maxon, they're all in Eagle. And as soon as we have something go on, I get contacted. I call the correct team out in Edwards or Vale or Grand Junction and Rifle. And I did 2 car accidents last year within the same week. And one was in Eagle and one was in Grand Junction. And we got both of them.
And I guess give me the stat, because I think that's one of those things that people don't realize, that when you got an accident and the pet's in the car, pets, they want to get out of there as much as you do too, but that's not what the ambulance or your first responders are looking for. So that's how the pets usually go missing.
Yeah, and that's actually how we got involved in the science of lost pet behavior. Was a dog named Outlaw who got lost on top of El Paso 3 years ago. And while I was doing that, this amazing woman, Katie Albright, came in and she says, you're going to have to use traps and a camera. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. So she slept in her truck for 14 days. And every day after work, Melissa and I would go up there and she would give us a little tidbit about lost pet behavior and the science of it, and scent articles and scent trails. And even when we set up scent stations and articles, we tell the owner, there's strategic lines we make. Long story short, we had a rollover car accident out in Eagle last year, and this woman went down to set up a camera, and I said, every time you go to that camera, I want you to walk the same trail. Every time. So on day 7, she called me up and she goes, hey, I'm heading down to the camera. I'll let you know if anything on the camera. She walks down with her boyfriend. She gets to the camera. She turns around and her dog is right behind her. And she followed the prints, and the dog came down, sniffed her car, recognized the smell, and then picked up her scent trail from her feet. And since she's walked the same trail once or twice a day for 7 days, it was so concentrated that the dog actually tracked its own owner and found her owner. There's a lot of science behind that my team knows.
Well, good. I mean, it's one of those great resources we have here in Summit County, along with the rescue group and water rescue and all the other stuff here. It's good to know that volunteers like yourself, because again, you guys do this all volunteer. You don't collect a dime off of any of those groups you're part of.
Mountain Rescue, no, we do it out of the goodness of our hearts. And the one thing with Mountain Rescue, which I love being on Summit County Rescue Group so much, is that you do have a little more rescuer-patient interaction. The dog rescue, which I never see the dog. So I'm just working with the owner. So it's nice to have that relationship with them and tell them jokes as they're getting carried out with a broken leg, and you kind of make them smile a little bit. And, then they send you a letter later on and saying, hey, to the rescuers from the Summit County Rescue Group that helped carry me out, thank you so much. My leg is healing. I look forward to going skiing next year. Thank you for that. And just a group of people. It's such a fun, loving, crazy, calculated, insane group of people. And we all come from different angles or different spots of the country. So we all get together, and we all know Summit County Rescue Group holiday party comes up every year, and everybody just has fun and shares stories. And we would definitely put ourselves in line to help each other, whether or not it's in the field or if it's personal. Yeah. It's definitely a family-based operation.
That's exactly how it feels. Even the newer members that I've talked to, they feel like one guy said he was like I felt like I found my people.
Yeah.
By getting involved with these guys.
Yeah.
Well, great, Brandon. Thanks again for coming in and talking a little bit about your involvement all across the county, and of course, we'll be keeping our eye on what's happening with the pits in Frisco and the dogs up in Silverthorne.
Yeah. And just in case, you can go on Summit County Loves Their Pets. And join that group, or Summit Lost Pet Rescue, and we have both missions on that thread right now, so you can look up. And then we just if you see a stray dog and there's no humans around and you're not curious, feel free to reach out to us, because sometimes we know that there's a lost dog and you don't. So if you call us and be like, no, that's the dog we're looking for. And that's happened. We're like, no, we haven't seen that dog in 2 weeks. Thank you. We appreciate it. And then we go and bring him home.
Brandon, love it. Keep on the good work, man. It's great talking with you. And, of course, keep coming on back as we talk to more people for Humans of Search and Rescue here on Crystal 93.